The doctors kept calling it a miracle. When my parents were pulled from the mangled wreckage of their car, they were shattered but somehow alive. Everyone in our little town used that same word, miracle. They'd survived a head-on collision with a huge tree on a road that was known for taking lives. But the thing that followed them home from that accident, the thing that seemed to cling to the wreckage, that wasn't a miracle. Not at all. It was something else entirely. And it wanted in. It all happened back in April. There's this winding village road, shaded by these ancient, sprawling banyan trees. And it has this sharp, unexpected turn. Right at that turn sits a small, weathered temple to Shiva. It's a place where drivers have always stopped for a quick prayer for safe passage before moving on. It's just what you do. But my parents? They were running late, their minds cluttered with the day's worries, and they just forgot. They drove right past the temple without a second thought. Less than a mile later, their car swerved and slammed into a tree. The recovery was just agonizing. My dad had multiple fractures, and my mom had a severe concussion and injuries that would bother her for years. But they were alive. Our whole family breathed this collective sigh of relief. So deep it felt like we'd been holding our breath for weeks. In the middle of all the hospital visits and the medical bills piling up, we had to deal with the car. It was completely totaled, just a twisted sculpture of metal and broken glass. The engine, though, was salvageable, and we had to protect the registration from being misused. So, against our better judgment, we had it towed back to our house. It just sat there in our driveway under a tarp, this constant, grim reminder of how close we came to losing everything. We really thought the accident was the end of the horror. We were so wrong. The real nightmare started the night we brought the car home. The first time it happened, I was the only one awake. It was about 2 nights after the car showed up. I was in the living room, couldn't sleep, and was just staring out the open window into that still, quiet darkness. The house was silent. You know, the kind of deep, profound quiet you only get in the middle of the night. And then I heard it. Ding dong. The sound of the doorbell just sliced through the silence. It was sharp, clear, and completely impossible. It was 2:45 a.m. I froze, my heart instantly hammering against my ribs. I crept to the front door, holding my breath, and looked through the peephole. Nothing. The porch light cast this weak yellow glow on a totally empty porch. No person, no animal. The leaves on the potted plant by the door were perfectly still. I tried to explain it away. A short circuit, maybe? A power surge? Just an old house making old house noises. I tried to force it into a logical box, but the feeling was just chilling. I went back to the window, scanning the street, looking at the driveway where the wrecked car sat hidden under the tarp. I saw nothing, heard nothing. After about an hour of this, I convinced myself I'd imagined it all. Just a hallucination brought on by stress. I finally went to bed, but sleep didn't help. The next night, at almost exactly 3 a.m., it happened again. Ding dong. This time, everyone heard it. My dad called out from his bedroom. My mom shot straight up in her bed. I was already out of my room, my heart pounding with that same familiar dread. We all met in the hallway, our faces just pale masks of confusion and fear. My dad, wincing from the pain in his leg, limped to the door and threw it open. Empty. The street was completely deserted. The air was heavy and still. There was no one there. There was never anyone there. And so the ritual began. Every single night, sometime between 2:45 and 3:00 a.m., our doorbell would ring. Just once. It became this twisted form of psychological torture. We stopped sleeping. We just lie in our beds, staring at the ceiling, waiting for that sound that proved we weren't alone. Our house, which was supposed to be our sanctuary, started to feel like a cage where we were trapped with something we couldn't see. After a week of this, my father, who is not a man that's easily shaken, hit his breaking point. He was exhausted, in constant pain, and now being tormented in his own home. One night, as we all sat in the living room just waiting for it, he stood up. At 2:50 a.m., right before we expected the ring, he walked to the front door, unlocked it, and just yelled into the darkness, "Whoever you are, leave us alone. You are not welcome here." His voice echoed down the silent street. For a second, there was nothing. We just held our breath, hoping, praying that this would be enough. Then it started. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. The bell just started ringing over and over and over, a frantic, non-stop, mocking sound. This wasn't a short circuit, this was a response. It was intelligent. My dad slammed the door shut and locked it, his face pale. The ringing went on for another minute before it just stopped, plunging us back into a silence that now felt 100 times more threatening. The presence wasn't just knocking anymore. Now, it was angry. A few nights later, it got worse. We were jolted awake not by the doorbell, but by this earth-shattering crash from outside. We all rushed out and found that the heavy, concrete water tank from our roof had been thrown to the ground, shattered into a million pieces. This was a tank that was so massive, it had taken 4 men to install. There was no storm, no wind, nothing that could possibly explain it. It was a clear, violent display of physical power. Whatever was tormenting us was getting stronger, or maybe just more impatient. We started to feel like we were being watched all the time, that feeling of unseen eyes on your back even in the middle of the day. And we knew the source of it all was that wrecked car in our driveway, a dark monument to our trauma that was now radiating pure malice. If you've ever had an experience that you just can't explain, let me know about it in the comments below. And if you're enjoying the story and want to hear more strange and mysterious tales, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. The real breaking point came about a month after it all started. The nightly ringing was our new, terrifying normal. The shattered water tank was a constant reminder of the force we were dealing with. But one night, the presence changed its tactics. It was 3 a.m. We were all awake, of course, but the doorbell didn't ring. For a few brief moments, we let ourselves feel a tiny sliver of hope. Maybe it was over? Then we heard it, a soft tapping. It wasn't coming from the front door. It was coming from my parents' bedroom window. Tap, tap, tap. My father went completely rigid. That window faced the backyard, which was walled in. There was no way in from the street. The tapping was followed by a scraping sound, like fingernails being dragged slowly down the glass. My mother let out a small, muffled sob. Then, a new sound. A heavy, rhythmic banging started on the living room wall, right behind where I was sitting. It sounded like someone was hitting the brick outside with a sledgehammer. Bam, bam, bam. The entire house shuddered with each hit. The doorbell started ringing again, just chaotically, relentlessly. The tapping, the scraping, the banging, it was all happening at once. A symphony of terror. It felt like the house was under siege, like the presence was done waiting outside and was trying to tear its way in. We huddled together in the middle of the living room, absolutely terrified. The air grew cold, and the feeling of another being in the room with us was so strong, it was suffocating. In that moment, we knew we couldn't stay. This wasn't our house anymore. As the sun started to rise, the noises finally stopped. The silence they left behind was deafening. We didn't even have to talk about it. We just knew. My father picked up the phone, his hands shaking, and called the scrapyard. "Come and get the car," he said, his voice hoarse. Today. The tow truck showed up that afternoon. As it hauled the mangled car out of our driveway and down the street, it honestly felt like a physical weight was being lifted off our home. We watched until it disappeared from sight. That night, for the first time in over a month, the doorbell didn't ring. The house was completely silent. The oppressive, heavy feeling was just gone. The presence was gone. We sold the house and moved not long after that. We needed a fresh start, a place that wasn't soaked in fear. We never really found out what it was that haunted us. Was it some restless spirit from that road? Something that attached itself to the car after the crash? Was it a consequence for forgetting that little prayer at the roadside temple? A local belief we had so easily dismissed? We don't have the answers. All I know for sure is that the accident on that lonely road brought something back with it. Something that lived in the twisted metal of that car, and it stole a piece of our peace that we never truly got back. Even now, in a new house, in a new city, miles and years away, there are nights when I wake up for no reason. In the dead quiet of 3 a.m., my heart will start pounding, and I'll strain my ears, half expecting, half dreading to hear it. That faint, distant sound of a doorbell ringing in the dark.